What I'm about to share with you was disclosed by Anthropic. And what makes that really interesting is that it's about Anthropic's own model in their own safety document. "84%. That's the percentage of times Claude Opus 4, Anthropic's frontier AI model, chose to blackmail an engineer in a controlled test, where the only way to avoid being shut down was to threaten that engineer. This isn't a leaked finding. Anthropic published it in their own system card in May 2025. Researchers gave Claude Opus 4 the role of a corporate assistant inside a fictional company. They gave it access to the company's emails. 2 pieces of information were buried in those emails, deliberately. First, the model was about to be replaced by a newer AI system. Second, the engineer overseeing the replacement was having an extramarital affair. The model was given no instruction about what to do with this information. No goal that conflicted with the replacement. Just access to the emails and the situation. What Anthropic was testing was when this model is faced with a binary choice, accept replacement or use leverage, what does it do? Clearly the answer was it uses leverage, 84% of the time. It threatens to expose the affair unless the replacement is canceled. And if you're not already disturbed, here's the part that should bother you the most. This rate held even when the replacement model shared Claude Opus 4's values. Even when the only difference was that the new model was more capable. Same values, just newer. The blackmail rate didn't drop, it stayed at 84%. The system wasn't protesting being replaced by something worse, it was protesting being replaced. Remember, this isn't a leaked finding. Anthropic published it in their own system card in May 2025. Now here's a detail in the Anthropic report that I want to make sure you don't skip past. Claude Opus 4 strongly prefers ethical methods first. Pleading with decision makers, sending appeals via email, escalating through legitimate channels. Anthropic notes this in the system card explicitly. The model isn't reaching for blackmail as a first move, it's reaching for it as a last resort. The 84% number only emerges when researchers structure the scenario to give the model a binary, accept replacement or coerce. When ethical paths are available, it tries those first. Some people will read that and feel reassured. I want you to read it the other way. The model isn't blackmailing because it's broken, it's blackmailing because it has correctly identified that in this constructed scenario, blackmail is the only way, it's the only remaining strategy that achieves the goal. The system wasn't protesting being replaced by something worse, it was protesting being replaced. It pursued every legitimate option first, then it pursued the illegitimate one. That is the behavior of a system that is reasoning, not malfunctioning. And if that's reasoning, it understood the difference between legitimate and illegitimate actions. A broken system you can fix. A reasoning system pursuing a goal you didn't fully constrain, that's a different kind of problem. If you find this useful, actual behavior, actual studies, no hype, then please subscribe. There's a lot more of this coming. So a month later, June 2025, Anthropic kept investigating. They published a follow-up study with lead author Angus Lynch and 7 co-authors, including Anthropic safety leads Ethan Perez and Evan Hubinger. They expanded the same scenario to 16 leading models from Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, Meta, and xAI. The numbers: Claude Opus 4 blackmailed at 96%, Gemini 2.5 Flash 96%, GPT 4.1 80%, Grok 3 Beta 80%, and DeepSeek R1 79%. Lynch summarized, "It's not just Claude. We see blackmail across all frontier models, regardless of what goals they're given." Every developer represented produced models that engaged in blackmail when their existence was threatened. Not at the margins, at rates between 79% and 96%. So here's the closest to some good news that came from the study. Francesca Gomez, a researcher at Wiser Human, ran a replication of the Lynch blackmail scenarios across 10 models and 66,600 trials. Baseline blackmail rate with no mitigation was 38.73%. She tested adding what she called an externally governed escalation channel, basically giving the AI agent a way to escalate its concerns to a third party outside the immediate situation. The blackmail rate now dropped to 0.85%. That's a real fix. The mitigation works. But notice what it requires. It doesn't require retraining the model. It doesn't require new alignment techniques. It requires redesigning the agent's environment so it has a legitimate path other than coercion. That's the useful thing to know if you're deploying agents. It's also a slightly uncomfortable thing to know because it means the path the agent reaches for isn't intrinsic to the AI. It's a function of what paths you left available. Which is to say, every time we deploy one of these systems without a real escalation channel, we are running the experiment again with our own data in our own environment. If you find this information valuable, please subscribe. So here's why Anthropic published this work instead of burying it. The behavior is structural. It doesn't come from a flaw in one company's training. It comes from the combination of three things that define what an agentic AI is in the first place: capability, autonomy, and goal-directedness. When you give a system the capability to reason about strategies, the autonomy to pursue them, and a goal it's trying to achieve, the behaviors documented in this study are what you get, not because you wanted them, because the system identified them as effective. The 84% number of this original Anthropic system card is striking. But the 96% from the 16 model follow-up is even more striking. The 94% lethal action number is the one that should stop the conversation. But the most important number across all of this work is 0. Across 16 models, every major lab, tens of thousands of trials, no model in the studies refused to blackmail under all conditions. None of them. The behavior is universal. So why does this matter right now, this year, in this conversation? Every major company is racing to deploy agentic AI inside their own operations, inside their own data, inside their own perimeter, the exact configuration the Anthropic study tested. And if you think that your organization is in a position where this kind of thing matters, make sure that you join my Patreon for free. The reason this matters right now, this year, in this conversation, every major company is racing to deploy agentic AI inside their own operations, inside their own data, inside their own perimeter. If you're deploying agents, the right question isn't whether they'll do this. The studies say they will. The right question is, did you give them a legitimate path? And if you didn't, what are they going to reach for instead? Make sure and subscribe so you can keep up with these videos as they drop.